Hello folks, welcome to Fastcuts. Today, we bring you a unique and different science fiction movie. Released in 1995, the French movie titled The City of Lost Children is commendable for its unique making style.
The movie, directed by Marc Corot and Jean-Pierre Jeunet, progresses in a dark mood. The VFX visuals of the movie are robust, even though the movie was released 27 years back. Now let's delve into this fantasy world. The movie kicks off with a Christmas vibe. A little boy was enjoying the Christmas ambience by looking at the toys from his cradle. From the nearby hearth, a Santa Claus comes out. He gives a toy to the boy. From then onwards, strange things started to happen. One by one, the room started to fill with Santa Clauses. The happy chap now turns cranky. The next scene shows us an old man crying at the top of his voice, wearing some kind of a crown. Then the atmosphere shows us that this is an experiment lab. This scene is viewed by 6 dwarf men and a short woman. Now let me give you some details to understand the plot of the movie. The man who is crying at the top of his voice is Crank, created by a scientist. Due to a manufacturing defect, he is unable to dream. The dwarf woman, named Martha, and the half-lunatic 6 clones are also created by the scientist. Being more intelligent than the rest, Crank assumed leadership when the scientist left the place. Crank was distressed as he was unable to dream. He thought of ways to solve his defect. Since the most beautiful dreams are seen by children, he kidnaps children from the nearby city to steal dreams from them. But what to do? He was unlucky as all the kidnapped children saw only nightmares. What we saw in the first scene is one such nightmare. The clones also started to scream after hearing the loud cry of Crank. Crank reached near the box in which the child was laid and opened it. He then heard a musical voice from behind, which says, "Who steals the dreams of children? Is it the mad Crank? Where will this end? A comedy or a tragedy?" Crank looked back. The voice came from a brain in a vat named Irvin, which was also made by the scientist. Irvin could hear, see, and speak with the help of some machines. With this sudden surge of anger, Crank snatched the doll from the child and throws it away. Now the visuals show us the dwelling of Crank and his team. They lived on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean. The scene then shifts to a street. Through the crowd of the street, 2 boys were roaming. Tactfully, they were pickpocketing the people around. At the same time, a person made an announcement showing a Hulk-like man. The man was called One, the strongest man in this world. He was held in chains of iron. The announcement said that he is going to break off this chain. Meanwhile, a child was collecting money from the people who gathered to see this performance. He was the help of the announcer. The helper boy reached near the pickpocketer boy, but to his dismay than offering money, the pickpocketer stole the money that he had collected. With no other way left, the helper boy made a sharp bite on the hand of the pickpocketer. By seeing all this, the announcer came forward and took the pickpocketer by his hand. Unfortunately, a mugger came forward and stabs the announcer. At this point, we don't know who stabbed the announcer or why he was stabbed. One now breaks his chains and came running to the announcer. One came home with the announcer. The helper boy named Denry was also with him. He was the adopted little brother of Strowman One. When Denry looked behind, he saw an apple hanging by a hook outside the window. One saw that Denry was trying to catch the apple. Within split seconds, One took Denry and hid in a room. In the next shot, we can see the people who tried to lure Denry with the apple. These people with their mechanical eyes are called Cyclops, who kidnapped children from the city for Crank. Now they came to kidnap Denry. They barged inside the room and found One and Denry. There was a flash of lightning suddenly. By hearing the sound of the lightning, Cyclops closed their ears. They are vulnerable to heavy sounds. Even though One tried to defend Denry, the Cyclops successfully kidnapped Denry. To escape from the Cyclops, One entered a bank. Inside the bank, there were many children who inquired about the whereabouts of One. Being absent-minded by the kidnap of his brother, One said blankly that his brother was kidnapped by some strangers to somewhere. One girl among the children looked outside through the window and saw the Cyclops. She sensed danger and said to other children that there are people after One. It was only when the Cyclops broke into the bank that we came to know what were the children doing inside the bank. They were attempting a bank robbery. The safe was almost opened, and One was tied to a chair. The Cyclops were happy as the naughty children made the work easy for them. The Cyclops took the money and left. Now the girl came near to One and was tied to a chair and asked him to stop acting and raise his hip. The children took the money that they hid beneath his seat. One of the children asked the girl what to do with the money that the Cyclops took. She answered that she knows where the Cyclops are and they can steal it from there. The girl is named Miette. One heard this, and he thinks if he could know where the Cyclops are, then he could probably save his brother. He broke off from the chair to which he was tied and started following the children. He stops Miette and asks her does she know where Cyclops stay. She picks up a stone and throws it at him and called him a madman. Meanwhile, the clones are celebrating the birthday of Irvin. Just when the dwarf clones were about to have the cake, Crank came in. He was angry and asked what the hell was going on there. Suddenly, one of the clones dozed off. Martha went near Crank and explained to him that it was Irvin's birthday. Crank blabbered in anger and left the place as they were celebrating when he was distressed. Irvin called Crank as he was about to leave. Irvin explained to Crank that maybe it could be because of Crank that the children were having only nightmares. Further, Irvin offered that if Crank could give Irvin his tear, then Irvin will give him a detailed analysis of his tear and prescribe him methods to alleviate this dilemma. But the fact here is that it's hard for Crank to shed his tears. By hearing this, the clones started to sing to make Crank cry. Irvin said that he will give a try. Irvin then narrated a story. Once upon a time, there was a scientist. He had the ability to make life. As he was a lone man, he thought of inventing a wife and children for him. He first tried to make a wife, but he could make only a very short woman. He then tried to invent children. He successfully invented 6 children in his shape. However, these children had sleep issues. They could doze off at any time. As someone needed to talk, he nurtured a brain inside a fish tank. At last, he invented a life, a man called Crank. But there also luck didn't favor him. The man was unable to dream due to a lack of happiness. The man started to age prematurely. It was only then Crank understood that this was the story of the scientist who invented them. When Crank understood the story, he started to cry. Martha and the clones collected the tears. Irvin continued with his story. The brain conveyed to the man unable to dream that if he could give a tear of him, then the brain could probably explain the reasons behind it. The idiot believed him and started to cry. It was then that Crank understood that Irvin was making Crank a fool. Irvin was taking revenge as Crank spoiled his birthday party. Crank in anger went near Irvin and turned off his camera. This camera served as the eyes of Irvin. Now the scene shifts to another place. Precisely, this place is like a gangland. We have seen children doing theft in many scenes before. This gang of little thieves is run by a pair of conjoined twins. The children should surrender the stolen articles at night before the conjoined twins. This underworld has a watcher who is accompanied by a dog. One by one, the children started to surrender their stolen things. Among them, we can also see Miette. Though she looted a bank, she surrenders only a meager amount of the stolen money. Following the children, one has also reached there. Without being noticed by the watcher and the dog, one reached near a window and looked inside. Inside, the twins were taking classes for the next robbery. The twins said that they will show the children a building inside which there will be a safe. The children have to steal the ornaments inside the safe and should hand over it to the twins. In between, Miette saw one. The boy near Miette threatened one by showing him a knife. One was surprised. Unknowingly, he stepped upon a bottle. By hearing the noise of the bottle, the dog speeded near one. The classes for the robbery were going on. The twins said that it's not difficult to find the safe, but it would take around 2 hours to open it. There are chances for the children to be caught in that time, so the twins advised that they should find someone who can lift the safe. At the same time, to escape from the dog, one broke into this classroom. He quickly closed the door and effortlessly lifted the safe and placed it on the door to not let the dog in. The twins were surprised as they were looking for someone like one. The twins asked the children to take one along with them. He can help the children by lifting the safe. The money heist starts. With help of rats, the children got the keys to the room. Once they stole the safe, the children ran along with one who carried the safe. They were chased by police. However, they tricked the police and safely reached a harbor. They opened the safe and started to take out the ornaments inside it. But distracted by seeing Denri's kidnappers, one threw the safe into the sea before taking out all the ornaments. He ran after them. The children were nervous as the twins won't spare them if they go without the ornaments. Miette said she will be back in a minute and followed one. She said to one that it was of no use to run after the vehicle of the kidnapper. Miette said she knows where they are heading, and she will take him to the place of the Cyclops. Miette then asks one about his brother. One says he got his little brother from the streets. In sadness and anger, he punches the wall. A pipe bursts by his punch. Miette said him that they can leave to the place of Cyclops. By this time, the rest of the children reached near the twins. The twins threatened the children when they came to know about all the happenings. The children said that it all happened because of that strongman. While cooking, the twins says that they should teach Miette a lesson for being overboard. Meantime, the clones were playing Ludo. Crank rings a bell. The clone who lost the game reached near Crank. It was the duty of the dwarfs to narrate stories to Crank. At the same time, Irvin opens his eyes. One of the clones came near Irvin with a child. According to Irvin's instructions, he placed the child in the machine. The clone then asks Irvin if all clones are the same or if anyone is original, and the rest are copies of the original. Irvin places a condition that if he has to tell the truth, then the clone has to enter the machine. The clone was afraid as it would make Crank angry. Irvin gives him confidence by saying that he is the original among the clones. Meanwhile, Crank falls asleep by listening to the stories. Irvin does some experiments on the child in the machine and transfers all the bad dreams of the child to a bottle. He then asks the clone to throw this bottle into the sea. He advises him not to make noise, and the bottle contains a message. Meantime, One and Miette follow Cyclops and infiltrate their headquarters. A meeting was happening there. Martha and one of the clones came there to buy the kidnapped children. Among the children there was Denry. One recognized Denry. He rushed inside, but the number of Cyclops overpowered him. They captured One and Miette. When one of the Cyclops frisked Miette, he got the stolen ornaments from Miette. He then took that ornaments to the twins for sale. Twins offered him 1 lakh, but he bargained for 2 lakh and said he would pass a piece of information about Miette to them. Crank reached near Irvin and started to stop him. He asked Irvin to help him, but Irvin disapproved. This made Crank angry. At the same time, the clones are getting ready to welcome the newly bought children. The twins reached near an old circus performer named Marcello and asked him for the favor to kidnap a girl. Marcello has many small fleas. With the help of these fleas, Marcello can make people unconscious and can hypnotize them by injecting drugs into their bodies with the help of festing of the fleas. He gets the fleas ready to kidnap Miette from Cyclops. What happens at the place of Crank is that Crank was trying to make the newcomers happy by dressing up like Santa Claus. But the kids started to cry. If the kids aren't happy, then so shall be their dreams. Meanwhile, the Cyclops is planning to execute Miette and One, but Miette and One are tied to a wooden plank protruding from the sea. On the other end of the plank, a basket full of fish is placed. When birds pick the fish, it creates a weight imbalance, and thus One and Miette will fall into the sea. The Cyclops placed a bet on who will drown first. The trained fleas of Marcello reached there and bit one of the Cyclops. Marcello started to hypnotize the Cyclops and created a brawl among the Cyclops. Marcello comes in a boat and rescues one, but failed to save Miette. She fell into the sea and drowns. She saw a figure in the deep sea. That figure drags her to a submarine. It was only when the figure removed his helmet that we came to know who he was. He looked similar to the clones. This was the scientist who invented Crank, Martha, and the clones. Miette became conscious, then the scientist said that he was at the right time, or else Miette could have drowned. Miette says that his face looks familiar. The scientist says that he has been living under the sea for years or else he will be killed. He then shows the things that he has collected from the depths of the sea. Miette asks who is trying to kill him, but he says he doesn't remember. Miette looks around and saw the safe that One threw into the sea. She fills her pocket with the ornaments. As she opens a door to go from there, a doll fell from it. By seeing this, Miette asks the scientist does he know about the missing children. The scientist said they are kidnapped by those cruel people. Nobody can go there. There are mines around it. Only the map engraved on somebody's body can help one reach there. Miette calls him a madman and looks through his periscope. She saw Martha and the clones loading the boat with the next batch of kidnapped children. At the same time, Marcello takes One to a whorehouse. One was depressed as he thought Miette was dead. Marcello sends a woman near One. He then calls the twins and passes on the information to them. Miette comes out from the submarine and reaches near her thief friends. She said to them that the children are kidnapped by Cyclops. Her friends responded that one is not bothered about these as he is engaged in flirting with other women and drinking alcohol. Miette then heads to the whorehouse. Miette started to scold one, but he was drunk. Marcelo came near Miette and asked her to go from there as the twins can come anytime to take one. One was taken away by the men sent by twins. The men put him in the vehicle, but Miette's friends took him tactfully with the help of a crane. They placed him then on the top of a big can. The can started to roll and hit a pipe. One splashed into the sea. As he became conscious in the meantime, he swam to the shore using a water tire. Miette didn't like this joke played by her friends. She scolds them, they left. The bottle thrown by one clone as advised by Urban stays afloat in the sea. With the action of the waves, the bottle sinks and reaches the hand of the scientist who was walking beneath the sea. The scientist reached his submarine with the bottle. While he was sleeping, the bottle fell to the ground. The bad dreams inside the bottle started to come out. It first entered the scientist's body. He then started to have bad dreams. It was a child's dream. He saw Martha and Crank in the dream. With that, he got back his memory. Years before, when the scientist was working in his laboratory, Martha and Crank attacked him. After that, they threw the scientist into the sea and took the laboratory for themselves. The dreams from the bottle started to enter every house. At last, it entered Miette's body. She jolted awake. She then told one that she saw the woman who kidnapped the children in her dream. She then remembered the map which the scientist mentioned. Meanwhile, the twins were creating chaos in Marcelo's house. They felt cheated by Marcelo, as he was not able to hand over the strongman one to them. They stole the trained fleas of Marcelo and asked the thug to kill them. The twins then left. The thug fired in a different direction than firing at Marcelo. By hearing the sound of the gunshot, the twins thought that Marcelo was killed. Crank sat down for his dinner. The dinner comes before him using a small lift from the kitchen. One of the clones placed the cooked food on the lift, but one of the kidnapped children also enters the lift without the knowledge of the clone. When the food reached the dining hall via the lift, the plate was empty. The child ate the food. Instead of getting angry, Crank was calm and started to talk in a cajoling manner to the boy. But what to do? The boy was so hungry that he started to eat the fruits and even the candle. Crank was quite surprised. He said to himself every child would start to cry at the first sight of him, but this boy was different. Crank asks the child whether he sees bad dreams. We have seen this boy before. This boy is the little brother of one, Denry. At the same time, Irvin started to move his camera and speaker and asks Crank what he is up to. Crank ordered the clone to close Irvin's camera. Meanwhile, Miette and Juan are on the hunt for a tattooist to know whether he or she has engraved a map as a tattoo on anyone. Miette was tired and said she can't move any further. Juan started to massage her feet. He then carried Miette on his back as her shoes were torn. They entered a tattoo shop run by a Chinese couple. After hearing the questions regarding the map, the couple started to fight each other. Miette sensed that it won't be of no use by seeing their fight. She picked one of the stolen ornaments from her pocket and placed it on the table to bribe the couple. After seeing the valuable ornament, the Chinese man showed them the map tattooed on his head. Meantime, Martha and one of the clones were checking the radar. They realized that someone is coming towards them. The clone said that the person is tactfully avoiding the mines, so he must be coming in search of us. Irvin heard all these and said to the clone and Martha that they don't need to worry. The one approaching us is our God. He said that this God will save all of them from Crank. In next shot, we can see the scientist walking beneath the sea. At the same time, in another place, we can see Miette and one arranging a boat for them to get near the oil rig. Suddenly, Marcelo's fleas came there and injected the drug into one. The twins also reached there. Miette threatens them to leave the place. They said that they will leave if Miette gives them the ornaments. She then throws the ornaments at them from her pocket. Then the twins say that they will sing a song for Miette and started to play the hypnotizing machine of Marcelo. By hearing the music, one was hypnotized and was under the control of the twins. They then turned one against Miette. One started to beat Miette. A tear splashed from her eyes. This tear triggered a chain of events called the butterfly effect. In butterfly effect, small change in starting conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes. The tear landed on a cobweb. By hearing the sound, a domestic bird woke from sleep and started to make noise. By hearing the noise of the bird, a dog woke from sleep. By hearing the barking of the dog, a man who was sleeping on the streets threw a bottle at the dog. A bird fled in fear seeing this. On the flight, the bird pooped on the windshield of a car. This made the driver unable to see the road. His car got a pipe and water from the pipe entered another big pipe. The water in the pipe took some rats to a whorehouse. The whores ran by seeing the rats. A man working on an electric post was watching the whores. Due to his mindlessness, an electric short occurred. The entire town went into darkness. The torch of the lighthouse also dimmed. Without light, a ship coming to the shore lost sight of the shoreline. The ship barged into the harbor where the twins were standing. One and Miette fell into the sea. The ship stopped at the face of the twins. The music stopped and one was relieved from the hypnotization. The fleas returned to Marcello. Marcello was happy by seeing the fleas, and the fleas explained to him what had happened. Meanwhile, one and Miette were still floating on the water. The twins poured petrol into the water to kill them. Before they lit the petrol, Marcello reached there and hypnotized the twins. He created a feud among the twins. He then threw a rope for one and Miette to escape. The twins fell to the petroleum in the water. Marcello quickly threw his cigarette, which he was smoking, into the water. The petrol caught fire, and the twins were killed. One and Miette headed to the oil rig of Crank by their boat. Meanwhile, Crank was setting up everything to steal the dreams of Denry. Even now, Martha and the clone are looking at the radar. The clone asked Martha what will they do. Martha instructed the clones to search everywhere. One of the clones opened the room where the explosives were kept, but the explosives were not there. The clone shouted that somebody stole the explosives. One and Miette reached there. They came near a pipe. The pipe was small, so Miette said that she will enter the pipe and look around. One tied a string from his dress on Miette to not lose her way back. Crank started to slide into a dream. Miette entered into the pipe. She climbed a staircase on the other side of the pipe. It was only then she came to know that it was a musical staircase. Martha sensed that someone is coming. She looks outside using a surveillance camera. Martha understood that it was a little girl. Miette felt that something is not right, so she ran back. But Miette lost her way as the thread broke. Meanwhile, Martha took her gun to kill Miette. Before Martha fires, the gun scientist reaches there and shoots an arrow into Martha. The scientist ran to Miette and set her to escape from there as soon as possible because he is going to destroy the oil rig. He was then running here and there and was placing bombs at different locations. She calls him again a madman and tells him that there are many innocent children here. The scientist said that he has forgotten about it and asked Miette to give them some toys. By saying this, he picked up some toys from his pocket and gave them to Miette. He then ran away. Miette yells at him to tell her the way out, but he didn't listen to her and kept running. Meanwhile, Martha, who is close to her death, shows Miette a way and gives her a key. But this was one last trick played by Martha on Miette. Once Miette took the key, Martha pulled a lever. The platform on which Miette was standing diverged. Miette fell, but she was saved by one. But accidentally, one fell into the pit. Meanwhile, Crank was stealing the dreams. Miette reached there in search of Denry. Irvin saw Miette and was glad that somebody came to the rescue. Irvin then says that it was he who made Miette come there. He asks Miette to help him to stop all these. Miette dismissed his talks and went to wake Denry. Irvin cautioned her that if she does so, Denry may lose his life. He then advised her that she can save Denry only if she can enter their dream. Miette listens to Irvin's advice and enters into another dream extracting machine. Slowly, Miette infiltrated into the dream of Denry and Crank. Irvin continues to instruct her. Once Miette reached the dream world, she took Denry and tried to come out. Suddenly, the way out turned into an iron door, and Denry turned into Crank. Crank inquires who is she, and what the hell is she doing in his dream. Miette tells him to leave the boy and offers a deal to replace the boy with her, as the source of the dream. He asks why she is doing this. Miette replies that if she takes up the place of Denry, she could probably meet his brother again. Crank accepts the offer. Meantime, the scene shows us one. He is unconscious due to the fall. Scientists saw him when he was placing the bombs. The scientist then shouts at him and asked him to sleep somewhere else as the scientist is going to put this place on fire. It was then one became conscious. When Crank released Denry and allowed Miette to enter the dream, Irvin took control of the dream. Miette started to age while Crank started to become young. The clone which entered the dream much before picked up the little Crank and left. Crank had no idea what was happening. His mental state was disturbed. He sprang up from the dream and dies the next second. One reached there and wakes up Mayad. They took Denri and all the children who were there with them and escaped by boat. The clones also escaped, along with Erwin. It was only then the scientist came to his senses. He pleaded to the clones to come back and rescue him. But a seabird lands on the handle of the blasting machine, blowing up them in the rig. The movie ends by showing the face of Denri. This is a must-watch for lovers of surreal movies. Anyone who loves a visually stunning movie should watch this. It looks amazing. The sets, the impressionistic and exaggerated designs are brilliant. I hope everyone enjoyed the movie. Do let me know your valuable comments in the comment box. Till we meet again with another movie explanation. Bye.